Hey, guess what time it is? It's time for Breedinum Radio. Brought to you by Pertnier Outdoors. This is a spring edition, which means it's turkey season, which means there's turkeys out there breeding them. Like getting on top and breeding them. That's what turkeys do. It's pretty cool if you ever seen it. But anyway, listen to these stories. These are real people from right around the corner who are going out there putting turkeys on the ground. They ain't breeding them no more. You know what I'm saying?
Hey everybody, Billy here, kicking off this episode, and will be our last episode of Breedinum Radio. I believe it is week 5, if we include the youth season. So this week we are going to be wrapping it up with two guys that had a fantastic season here in New York, both tagged out, and both are have some good stories to tell, I'm sure. Like I said last week, have not had a chance to listen to these at all, and I don't think I'm going to. Jimbo tells me they are good convos, so I will take his word for it. He hasn't let me down yet. So we'll get these two guys on. We've got Ryan Van Loo, and we have Al Fagan. So both of these guys are Western New Yorkers, and I think somehow they may know each other. I don't really know all that detail, but maybe that'll come out in this conversation. Maybe it won't, and maybe we'll dig into that a little further down the road here. But as for myself, I know Jimbo loves to tell his stories on here. So for me, you heard my little trials and tribulations of my turkey chasing, but I'm just in survival mode right now, people. So if you're out there and you have kids and you have more than one kid, I now say I can understand the challenges of being outnumbered or equal 2v2. So this stuff is no joke, and I'm sitting there tonight as I'm trying to rock my daughter to sleep while I'm giving my wife a little bit of a break, and it's about 9:45. Been up since 5 a.m. with crying children and 90-degree heat for the last 3 days, and I'm sitting there and I just kept envisioning that scene from Billy Madison where he's shaking the fat kid's face saying something along the lines of, "Don't you ever say that, don't you ever grow up." So I know both of these guys that are on here today, they had awesome seasons and were able to hunt a lot, it looked like. And I think that's kind of the moral of the discussion today is both of these guys that don't believe have kids, and they've got more time than most who, if you have those little heathens at home, your time's a little strapped. So I was there a couple of years ago, and with just one, it's quite a bit different. So you add that second one to the batch, and the time is a little pinched. So I'll leave you with that. Think about it. If you are one of those guys who's out there, or girls, and is very passionate about the outdoors and doing this stuff, and you don't have little kids running around, enjoy it while you can. Hunt every minute you can. Fish every minute you can. Do whatever it is you like to do every minute you can, because you got to kind of take a step back a little bit once it won't end, but you got to take a little step back. So that's old Slick Willie's advice for the day, as it is 11:15 and I'm recording the intro to this podcast, and then I will be crashing so I can get a little bit of sleep before the next go around. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. Thanks again to Big Jim for all of the work he's put into this series over the month of May and even the week before with the youth season. He's done a great job, and I don't think we would have been able to keep the content flowing if it was not for all the effort he's been putting in. So thanks again, Big Jim. Great job. Hope you get a bird here the last few days of the season. I've got faith in you. And I don't know if you've ever been skunked before, and I hope you don't. So good luck, buddy, and I hope you all enjoy this episode. And if you're getting back out, good luck. Hope you knock one down. I don't think they're breeding them, but you should be ready to feed them. So good night, people. Take it easy. Thanks for listening.
All right, on this episode of Breedinum Radio, we are catching up with Ryan Van Loo. He's one of the guys from Hunters Creek. Looks like, I'm looking at our spreadsheet here. It looks like you shot one on 5.7 and 5.16, so you are tagged out. But I saw today on social media there you were posting that you guys had another good morning this morning with one of your buddies.
Oh yeah, it's been pretty good. birds are quiet, but it's been good.
Yeah, we actually just ran into a flock here at my buddy's farm, and we've been out there twice. And of course, you think you got them after the first time, you know what they're doing, and then they did something totally different this morning. So,
Oh yeah,
it's been close, and we got 4 days, and we know they're there. So,
yeah. I don't know. I just think now is a little bit of calling and just knowing where they want to be is killing them. Because that bird today, I mean, last like week and a half, I've been putting my dad on a bird, and it's just been laughing at him. Like he'll leave at 10 o'clock, 10:30, he'll strut by, going out to the gas line. It's just been terrible. But
yeah.
I mean, that bird today was just like a piece of property. I never been in it ever. My buddy Luke drove by, saw a bird, talked to the farmer, and the farmer was like, "Yeah, go ahead." A bunch of other guys hunt here, but it just seems like after week one, guys just quit, give up. They're just not all into it. So
Yeah, definitely.
Last week and a half, and we went in this morning. I hooted, and a bird gobbled way off, I thought. And then so I was like, let's make a move towards me. We walked like 200 yards. I hooted, and the bird cut like 150 yards up from us. We actually set up on that bird, and that bird was fired up. And he gobbled probably 35 times in 10 minutes. I mean, it was just crazy. And we got in with 100 yards of him, and we were actually hunting him. And had my buddy Luke in front of me, and then Dylan was off to the left like 10 yards watching this little log that went down to the creek. He was up on a knob, and all of a sudden behind us, like his bird just gobbled, and that panic hit. I looked at Luke; his eyes were as big as an 8-ball, and mine were the same way. And we just turned. I mean, just it was disaster. But all of a sudden, I could see the bird like 80 yards, and like we were in this huge bottom. And this bird was probably, I mean, if you shot across the ravine, it was probably like 35 yards, but he was so high, it was probably a 100-yard shot. I mean, it was just crazy. And he just gobbling back and forth, strutting. I mean, just looked ridiculous. So I just caught at him once, and he just kind of, double gobble. He got to the point he was gobbling so hard that it sounded like a Jake. And
yeah,
he turned, and I'm like, he kind of looked like he spooked and ran. I'm like, what the hell? And all of a sudden I look, and he's actually like full bore running down this road. I mean, the ravine, I couldn't imagine climbing this thing. He full bore ran it down. I look at Luke, I'm like, here he comes. And he's like, what? And you can hear him hit the leaves, and you hear him hit the rocks. You hear him hit the creek. And we were on a big bank, and I mean, it was probably a good 10-foot drop to the creek bank. And I watched the bird run down in it, and Luke just looked at me, and he just like did the old panic, like peek up. Well, the bird literally popped up like 4 steps. I mean, where he was sitting, where I stepped, where the bird was laying dead was 4 steps. And I mean, he just blew a hole right in him. I mean, just wow.
So you guys were in the woods on that one?
Yeah, he pitched out to a field way up high on us, but I mean, just late season, it just seems like when you get one to gobble, you're either killing him and he's going to gobble 10,000 times, or I don't know.
This morning for us, like they didn't gobble until almost 5:30. I mean, we know they're there.
Same thing. Was like it was light. Like I kind of figured we might have bumped the bird because we were just like lazy, walked right through the field, and got to the back of this little gas line, and we sat there, and I'm like, man, it's pretty freaking light. He saw a bird in that field we were in 2 days ago, but I kept thinking to myself, like, it's this hot, they're not going to be in a field, they're going to be by water. And I mean, there was this little creek drainage that ran all the way down. I mean, it was beautiful back there. Hopefully go in there Friday or Saturday and try to get Dylan his bird.
Yeah. Yeah, that was weird. Like I'm sitting there and it's like fully light out Monday. Mm-hmm. The birds were already in the field by that point, and we hadn't even heard a gobble yet this morning. And then they kind of lit off and they started gobbling. We're kind of on a power line with a block of woods to the north and a block of woods to the southwest. Mm-hmm. There's just a bunch of open field in between. And it's like a rolling field. So there's a front side and a back side to it. And the other morning they came out on the front side where they normally do. Mm-hmm. And they were just out of range. And I couldn't get them to come in with all the hens. A hen came in and went around the decoys and then left and took everything with her. And then this morning we set up to shoot them the way they came out Monday morning. Yeah. And of course they did something totally different and came out in the backfield. Yeah. So there was 3 gobblers that were like, I heard them gobbling going across the backfield, and then I could see them way over on the other side of the field, like 300 yards away. Mm-hmm. And then there was a gobbler and a hen in between us. And I knew he was right over the edge from me, like 150 yards. And he gobbled, and I piped up, and I got going, and he was gobbling. And then you could see the 3 gobblers that were further out in the field, they turned on a dime and just started running. And I texted my buddy, I'm like, I don't know if they're going to get here in time because we needed to leave by 7. Mm-hmm. And it was like 6:05. Yeah. The freaking birds closed 300 yards in like 5 minutes or less.
he gobbled at first, and I was like, okay, that's another bird. But I figured it was way down, and he opened up once, and then he opened up like 2 minutes later, and the bird that was in front of us. I mean, we didn't hear him fly down, but he gobbled and you're like, okay, he's on the ground coming. And as soon as that bird behind us fired up, that bird shut right up. And it was like, man, he came in so hard and so fast. There was no way I thought he would have had 3/8 birds on him. I mean, he was like, just his day to die. I mean, he was just full out. Like, I mean, I can't explain to people like how steep this ravine is that he ran down. I mean, I don't even know how he didn't trip and fall. Like it's like the one where he was gobbling. I turned on the pine tree and I looked up behind him. I could see him strutting on the horizon. And I was like, man, I don't even know where we could climb up that bank to even try to get, like, let him work off. I don't even know where we can get up to try to even get around on him. It was that steep. And I mean, he made up his mind. I mean, he ran like full bore. I mean, it was wild.
I think that's the problem with where we are is all we have is open field.
Mm-hmm.
The woods are coming out of as private. So, I mean, they're doing the same thing every morning. They're hitting the ridge behind us.
Yeah.
And the only thing different about this morning is they went out back instead of out front. So
you ever think about
what's that?
You ever try thinking about fanning them?
I tried the first day I saw them out there, but they were gone by the time I got there because I was driving by after we hunted one of his other farms. And there was 4 of them out there strutting, and I had been driving by these farms all of season just waiting for something to show up. And I drove by, and I'm like, holy shit, they're there. So I grabbed my fan, went around the backside of the hill, and just freaking booked it down the field. And thinking about it, the hens were heading back for the woods when I drove by, and it's a good 400, 500 yards to the other end of the field. So it took me a little while to get down there, and I'm sure it was just natural for them to be out of the field by then.
And I got buddies, they're up like Syracuse. I mean, they're shooting 2, 3, 4 a day behind a fan. I mean, they're taking everybody and anybody, and they're just seeing birds and they're crawling. I mean, it's just, I never done it. I tried in Ohio one time. It was pretty freaking wild. But I mean,
I don't know. I should have. I was trying to go for more of the ambush this morning because we thought we knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
But I had the fan sitting next to me, and I should have, when they were doing something different, I should have just popped it out and went for them and just saw what happened.
It's weird. I mean, I don't know. I've never tried it, but there's every day I'm getting 2, 3 Snapchats. Bird down. Bird. Oh, geez, how many birds you got up there? You got to be all dead. But I mean, I just think around here, populated. I don't trust half the people around. I mean, especially this year, there's some beauties. Yeah. But I don't know. It's just, I mean, every year. I mean, they've killed in like 30 states this year, probably. I mean, they killed 2 in Connecticut today. I mean, they're all over the world or country, just killing them.
Crazy. Yeah, I've never really tried the fan thing before, but I bought one this year, and up till now, I haven't even been on Birds to try it. But now I'm on Birds to try it.
I don't really have many fields at all. It's like my uncle's as flat as could be, but it's got pressure on like 45 different. It's up there. So me and this guy in the backside, we laugh back and forth. Like, oh, the gas well crew is here. They put a blind 50 yards from their truck, and then we went there open day. He actually killed a bird in the morning, and then he texted us saying, "Hey, because we shot a bird out here." And then we were kind of figuring out something to do because we had guys driving 4-wheelers by. I mean, it was a circus open day again. And so he texted us, said, "Hey, there's a bird struck on the backside." And we were sitting over there and it started raining. So we walked all the way to the back. He texted me, it was like 11:15 or 11:45. He's like, "You got 15 minutes to do something." So I called nothing, called again, nothing. It was me, Chip, and Brian. We were just standing there. And a crow flew over, and that bird fell, 100 yards from us. I sat down, yelped once. It's just one of them things. Double gobbled. He gobbled like 5 more times. Marched into his, I shot him, I didn't shoot him, but Chip shot him like 20 yards and maybe 30 and 1 5/8 spurs. Like, just, I don't know. Just
Jesus Christ.
Just like, then it seems like every hunt this year was either like they were suicidal or you got out in front of them, called, and they just came. there was no like, the first bird I killed was kind of like a mid-morning type thing. We worked a bird and nothing. And then my brother and I were hunting together. That was like this, whatever day it was, a 6, 7, somewhere in there.
Yeah, it was the 7th, it says. And
we were working a bird, and he just shut right up. Figured somebody bumped him again. And I think it was like the first 9 days I ran, guys, 8 of the 9 days. And then, so then we went to a different place, and we were walking back. He thought he heard a bird gobble, and I didn't hear it. So we worked up a whole far into the woods, came back. I called him, and the bird cut me right off. I was like, wow. We sat down. I called, and the bird came out. I wanted him to shoot, but the bird came into I don't know what it was, probably 35, 40 yards, up high on me. I didn't want to try to just risk a shot on a bird that's always there. So then he worked off. We snuck around the side of the hill, and it's just as we're about to break in this little opening. I just looked, and there was 2 full fans in there, 3 hens. So I crawled down, scooched back, just started real soft calling with them, and I could hear a hen. She started coming. Well, she came like 20 yards by, and I was like, "The gobblers are coming." And then there was like this big brushy kind of like hedgerow on this field, and it opens up 15, 20 yards to our left. And I go, just follow the hens. The birds are coming. All of a sudden, whatever reason, the hens walk by. They're out in the field, and the gobblers decided to just try to beat feet through the brush. And they were like 45 yards, and we did the 1, 2, 3. I shot, mine went down, his took off. I think he shot low on him, but that bird's still there, and I mean, he's got a rope. So hopefully he can hunt one more morning, try to kill him that bird. But that bird's doing the same thing, but he won't gobble on the roost. Last week we went in there, sat underneath where he roosted, but he must have roosted over the bank. Nothing. So we slid out to where I saw him strutting the morning before. That freaking thing gobbled like 3 times right back where we were sitting. Just now he's under my skin.
Yeah, I have not had any birds this year just go full suicidal run-in. I have not been able to catch one in the right mood.
I have had the big one opening day, the one this morning, and then the one last week I called in for Justin. That bird was like, when it got light, we got in there. He watched the bird go to roost, and I was like, I'll meet you there at 4. I'll get there earlier than that bird is even awake. So we walked with the blind, popped the blind up in the field, and just got underneath it and just crawled right up to the bird. We were like 60 yards from him, probably 70 yards. I put 2 decoys on this little point in the field, but like to the right of the blind so you could see him. And he never gobbled the same thing. Like he was dead at like 5:34, but he gobbled at probably like 20 after 5. I called real soft. He double gobbled. He got one more time, but I mean, he literally pitched right 2 of the decoys and shot him. And I mean, that was like
Jesus.
super.
What were you guys running for a decoy set?
I just run 2 DSD hens. I got a Jake that I'll use if a bird's real aggressive, but yeah, I just ran 2 hens. And I mean, over at my uncle's, them birds are so scared. You can't call to them. You can't put a decoy out. I mean, they just turn. I mean, they run. So now it's just like deer, friggin' cameras spread all over the place trying to find a little bit of a pattern. And they've been using the same little point, like the same little spotter on the gas wall. And it's like they'll be there one day, then they're gone for 3, and then they don't hunt. They show up at 8 in the morning, then they're there at 9, then they're at 11, like because they tilled 2 fields, so they're just using that to cross in between them. And I think the one cornfield's sprouting up. But my dad will hunt there till 10. He'll leave at 10. The birds will show up at 11. He'll sit till 8. The birds show up at 9. It's just like one of them. You just gotta sit there.
The spot that I normally have that's golden didn't pay off at all this year. And I have a cell camera up there. And I'm like, I got to put a camera up there because I just cannot believe that there's no birds up there this year.
Yeah.
And it went a week with no pictures. And then Monday, I started getting pictures of turkeys walking by it.
See, I don't know if it's because it's getting so green that they're moving around. Because my uncle's was dead for like 2 weeks. And I think, well, it's so dang wet back there. But I think the hens always nest there. I think that's what brings them in. But my buddy that I'm hunting with in the morning, I mean, he had no birds for like 2 weeks. And I mean, there's always, like we always just say it's a turkey farm. There's always birds. Well, first one there, we had 2 gobblers coming. Here come 2 freaking yahoos walking. I'm like, oh, there go them birds. And we went the next time, and there's a guy sitting in his field. It's just like, it's a circus. I mean, this year is just a circus. And then, so we didn't go at all for like 2 weeks. And then, I mean, usually every time we go, you can at least guarantee you're going to have one. It's one of those woods. And, we went the second time. There was a guy standing there. So then hear a bird. And then he got a picture of a gobbler, saw him, but he pitched out the other way. He went again, saw 2 hens. Well, then today he just texted me. He's like, dude, he's like, my cameras blew up. He's like, I got Jakes and hens. I got a gobbler, and I'll walk out into the field. I'm like, perfect. We'll go there tomorrow. I mean, they always roost in the same 5 trees.
Yeah.
But so hopefully that's tomorrow. He doesn't get out too much with having a sun and stuff. But
yeah, I was looking at the weather for tomorrow morning, contemplating whether I want to go or not. It's looking like a steady rain.
I know. I always say I don't go, and then I just like, he can only hunt so many days, so you might as well go.
I know. We're down to the wire here too, so.
That's what I figure. So a few more days and call it quits.
So
it's been weird.
It has been. It has been a weird year.
I mean, like now, kid yesterday killed a bird, and he said there was 6 gobblers, 4 hens. Like, why are they? I don't understand why there's that many gobblers together, but whatever.
Pretty much that's what was going on in the field I've hunted the last couple of days. It's like just a huge community of birds, and they just all drop down and hang out around each other.
Yeah, I don't understand. I've seen a lot of lone hens like at work and stuff when we're working on the roads. They're walking around all crazy, but I don't know.
I mean, that's the only thing I saw in the beginning of the season is I would, be calling, trying to fire something up, and you'd call a hen in. Or you'd see a hen walk by, and it was like, well, where the hell's the gobblers?
The bird my dad missed last week, there were people in there hunting that blew him out of the roost. And it was like 5:30. He gobbled out in the middle of the field, and it was just kind of like one of them things where, like, we had no decoys out, and we had to give him a shot. And that bird marched all the way down to us. I was laying in the field behind a hen decoy, just twirl it with my hands, just really soft. And it sucked because the gobbler was coming the whole way, and he was just, he was white. His head was pure white. He was ready to die. And he was just slowly coming, gobbling, strutting back and forth, back and forth. And the Jake was like 20 yards behind him. Anytime he'd try to get up on him, the gobbler chased him back 50 yards, and the gobbler would run. And it was kind of one of them things where I was just like, man, I can't, because I've missed way too many birds here. And I looked at my dad, I can't believe it's finally going to happen. We'll see one die here. And, well, the bird got to like 70, and the Jake decided to beat feet to the decoy and ran, and got to like 15 yards and putted. Well, the guy was like 50. And I'm like, Dad, you better try something. He shot, and he must have shot low on him. But he freaking took off flying. I'm like, what the frig? No hens, and he was just dead. He was dead to rights.
Yeah.
But it is.
So what was your second bird?
Second bird was actually the morning my dad missed. It was kind of like, man, it is what it is. And it was kind of rainy and foggy that morning. And then I went home and had breakfast with my mom and my dad. It was like 9:30, and I was just like, time to go home and do chores at least. So I was just driving home and meet my wife to start the barn chores, and I just drove by this field, and there was 3 gobblers and 3 hens out there strutting. And I was like, there's a truck parked like 5 fields before. He's always there every day. I'm like, I've never seen a bird here ever. So I'm like, it was literally on Route 16. I wasn't even going to stop and knock. I'm like, everybody and their brothers got to know about these birds. I was like, what, 9:30 in the morning, what's the worst a person says? No. So I pull him. It was a guy I ended up working with. And I was like, hey, you on this field? He's like, yep. He goes, my neighbor does, and we hunt on theirs if they can hunt on ours type deal. I was like, really? I go, you mind if I try to kill them birds? And it was like they were just in the perfect spot. There's a hedgerow. And he was like, yeah. He goes, go ahead. He goes, I'll be down here working on a motorcycle. He's like, if you shoot something, let me know. So I got way up high on this ridge, cut down around this apple orchard. I got out in front, and I called, and the birds gobbled like 60 yards away. And I just crept up to the edge of the field. I went to go get a decoy out, and I look, and this Jake is just beat feeding it down the field and right at me. And I just tucked back, got my gun up, and he cut in front of me like 5 yards, cut up into there. And he was like doing that Jake yelp, walking up into the woods. When he started Jake yelping, them gobblers just lost it. And them gobblers actually left the 3 hens, and they were coming. And I was just like, oh, first one I could, there was a big strutter in the group. And that first little gobbler came through, and I shot him. And the best part is I shot him, and he's flopping around on the edge of this hedgerow. I look, and there's a shed hanger right on the freaking first hanger. I never even took a picture of it. I had to grab the bird and went back and talked to him for a little bit, and had a beard. But it was just one of them right place, right time. The hunt was 2.5 minutes.
That's a good day right there.
Yeah. I texted my dad, and I'm like, I just killed one. He's like, I thought you were going home to do chores. I'm like, well, I am now. Just weird. It's like this year just seems like right place, right time. And I don't know. And a lot of places birds usually aren't. So I don't know what the hell's going on with that.
Yeah, it was definitely an odd one.
I don't know if it was but the crazy part is, like, there's a lot of birds around. I didn't hear much shooting at all this year. Maybe I've seen 2. I think I've seen 8 or 9 die this year and 3 misses. And I've only heard maybe 10 shots.
Yeah. Sitting here looking at our list, there's a lot of guys that normally kill that didn't get shit this year, which is very surprising.
Yeah. I don't, there's a lot of birds. 2 days ago, I drove up the road here from my wife's house. There's 5 gobblers out in the field, but they weren't. It's like the birds either shut down or they're fired up. Because these 5 were feeding. They weren't strutting or nothing. They were just in a wheat field that's popping up or a hay field that somebody planted. And heads were red. That morning, I took my brother-in-law. We didn't have anything going. And then, we did. I freaking sat all morning where that bird was strutting nothing. Snuck into the field. There's this little hidden field. Snuck in. I glassed a lone gobbler out there, and there was a creek in between us. So I couldn't hear him gobble. As I'm walking up, I heard a bird gobble. So I crept up, binocular. He was out in the middle of this little field gobbling, just, whatever, the clover, whatever else is coming up out in that field, just sitting there pecking bugs. And I called Ben. I'm like, hey, we got to come up here and meet me. We can kill this bird for sure. And just as he started coming up the hill, I walked back to meet him. And just as I go to put my binoculars up, I must have bumped 2 deer off the ridge, blowing right down through the field, and I glassed the gobbler, just goes walking down over the creek. Never heard him again.
Huh.
We went, we left there, and then we found a lone bird out in the field at one of the farms we can hunt. Redhead, had nothing to want to do with calls, just sat there, just pecking in a cornfield, and then walked into the woods.
Yeah, because after we hunted that farm on Monday, my buddy had stuff to do, so I went out and hunted one of the other farms out back that we normally hunt, and I kind of just worked my way through the woods. I wasn't even calling, and I got up past into this block of woods that's surrounded by field, and I was like, I'll just sit in this corner so I can watch 2 of these fields. Mm-hmm. So I almost walked up to the edge of the one field, and I'm like, I'm just going to stay back and, about 50 yards off each field, right in the center. And I sat down, pulled the box call out because it was windy and shit. You couldn't hear anything. And I'm like, I'll throw a couple calls out on the box call and just sit tight for an hour or so because I know it's a good area. Mm-hmm. And I set that box call down, and I look out. I'm just kind of scanning the edge of the field, and all of a sudden I just see red. Mm-hmm. And it's like it's in the field, but it's in the vines. Like there's a batch of vines, and I can see just like a red post. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And I'm like just locked on it. And then I real slow, I just took my binoculars out and pulled them up. And it was sure as shit, it was a freaking redhead, sitting right there looking into the woods, wondering where the call came from. And he wanted nothing to do with it. He freaking turned and walked right off.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of birds. I don't know. I mean, there was boot tracks we hunted this morning, but I just think the guys hunted. I mean, we were 3 for sure, maybe 4. And I mean, they were ripping. There was no, like, I haven't heard a bird gobble. I don't know who I was talking to yesterday. I think I hunted it's like, I'm up to like 23 or 24 mornings. I think I've heard a bird gobble 9 of the 24. Like, it's just weird. I don't understand it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that place that we're hunting ain't pressured. The only one that keeps an eye that goes in there without my buddy is me. And there's been no pressure, so it's just odd.
They said around the country, just a bad gobble in here. So I don't know if it was the way the weather was or.
Well, what was weird to me is that it was super warm earlier in March.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that just got a lot of their worked upness out of their system, and then they went to breeding here in the beginning of May like they normally would in mid-May.
That one, when the hell week was it? It was like the 3rd week in March or 1st week in April, I think. The flocks. I mean, there was a flock I was watching. It was like 70-some birds. And like over a 3-day span, they broke up into like nothing. And I was like, well, that's kind of weird. I mean, that seemed pretty early. Because usually in April on youth weekend, you're working a group of birds.
Right.
But yeah, it broke up pretty quick there.
I think that early high temps in March, I know we got cold again, but I think the early high temps kind of kicked them into action because really opening day in the first couple of weeks was like it is towards the end of season.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, we opening day, we killed one, but we should have. I mean, we were set up for a triple because there was 4 gobblers hanging together with 4 or 5 hens, and them 3 gobblers. As soon as another bird would break and strut, I mean, they would run him to the next county, and we just were going to put a strutter decoy out. But people came in, bumped them off the roost, and then we're getting ready to leave. And I got up and called, and they cut up behind us. They started gobbling hard, so we got back in the blind, and that lone bird that just shouldn't have done what he did. He freaking come down all quiet, and we just 30 yards right of the blind. I'm like, oh, there's a strutter. And Brian got in from Tennessee the day before, and so we let him shoot. And then it's like that happened. Then we shot the big bird at 11:40. It was 11:51 when we Chip shot that big bird opener. And then they were up 4 days, and they didn't kill the second day, but they shot one the third, one the fourth. And the same thing, it was just like lone birds just walking around getting ready.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the first 2 days, I didn't even hear a bird.
Yeah,
and we had birds picked out. I mean, it was. We had places to go and birds to hunt, and they were not having it the first couple of days for us.
Yeah, it's just like night and day. Like the one last week, my dad, I had my decoys, and he doesn't have decoys, and he's like, texted me at like 6:30 in the morning. Like, oh, that decoys would have killed the bird this morning. And like, what are you talking about? He said that he got on a bird, called him out to the power line, he didn't see decoys. He walked back in, then he went across the gas line and tried to call him back, and he sat there till like 10. So he looked behind him, there was 3 hens and 3 jakes. And I heard another bird gobbling too that morning on the roost, which I've hunted there 4 times. I haven't heard a bird. He's on there probably 5 times. I haven't heard a bird. So that was the first day all year the birds gobbled in the morning. And then he said he had 2 gobble on the roost. The one came in, couldn't see the decoys. went back, and then he had a gobbler come out. He said probably biggest bird he's ever seen. Come out with 3 jakes, 3 hens, gobbling. He's got with them birds, and then just walked back across the road. And we went. I was like, well, let's go the next morning. We'll put a freaking decoy out there and kill him. And never heard a bird. We saw the 3 hens, 3 jakes. Gobbler wasn't with him, so I moved the camera. They walked out the day before, and the day we saw him, put the camera up next morning. The gobbler was with him. It's like, so I don't know where he went in that 24-hour span, but
Right. I mean, there was only one morning that we heard birds in the block of woods that we normally hunt. And it was a Wednesday morning. We just happened to be off because the Friday looked like it was going to be shitty, which we normally took Fridays off, me and my buddy.
Yeah.
So instead of doing Friday, we did Wednesday. And I went out with my other buddy at the farmland, and my one buddy went to camp and went to the fields. And he was like, holy shit, dude, they're here. He was like, there's, I heard at least 6 this morning. He was like, they're all in the block of woods where they normally are. Yeah. He's like, they moved in. I'm like, perfect. Yeah. So I got down there. We only hunted till 6:30, 7 o'clock on the farm. And then I jetted down there, and we hunted till noon, never heard a bird.
Yeah, it's weird because, I mean, I don't know. It just seems like when you hear gobbling like crazy, I just think it's just the woods you're in, really. But it seems like there's a lot of birds that are moving around now all of a sudden. Like, you're getting pictures of different birds. Like, my buddy Matt, he didn't have a picture of a bird for 2 weeks, and all of a sudden he got a picture last week of just a bird coming in and out of that field.
I think it's to the point now that a lot of the hens do have nests.
Yeah.
Because that one farm we're hunting, I mean, there's over 10 birds there, and mostly hens. Yeah. And they all hit the fields in the morning, and then they disperse. They all kind of go different directions. Like, they just head right off. They're not even feeding. They're messing around. They just gone.
2 days ago, my buddy Luke, where we just hunted this, said he drove up, saw a bird, and he had 2 hens. He drove back, and he said he watched the hens walk in the woods. He goes, the bird just started gobbling his brains out in that field, just strutting that knob. But then when we left this morning, I mean, we got turned on pretty hard. We drove around a little bit after before work, and we found a bird with 3 hens. I mean, that bird was out there just strutting his stuff, and the hens were feeding. He was right on him, and we stopped and asked, and the guy's like, nah, that's not a good idea. I don't give out permission. So,
yeah.
So it was a big bird, though. Holy cow.
Yeah, so I think this last weekend here is going to be good because I think a lot of the hens are starting to nest and kind of get that late season rush again, and the pressure's died down a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. Can't imagine too many people still. I mean, it stinks they're not gobbling, but they're still turkeys, still doing their thing. But I know a lot of people that kind of threw in the towel there. They're like, there's no birds around. It's getting frustrated and all the early mornings, and we're not hearing anything. And I mean, it stinks. People are quitting, but it's like you can't. I mean, I don't know. You just walk in. Like this morning, we walked in, figuring we hear bird. We heard 3. Now we know, okay, there's 2 more, and they were gobbling like crazy this morning. So it's like, okay, you got a starting point now for Friday or Saturday or Sunday to just, I don't know, you can't give up. That's how I look at it. You just, I mean, you only get so many days to hunt. You might as well hunt every single day.
I know. And the way it is for me is I like being out there anyways. So even if I don't get something, it's like I'm still going out and doing my hunting thing and getting up and seeing the sunrise. And I'm like, at the end of the day, at the end of May, I'm not going to be doing it anymore. So.
It makes work tough, and when you get home, you're beat. But
you
sleep in June.
Exactly, that's the way I look at it every year.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, I don't know. It's just you never know. I mean, I would never expected this morning to walk up and call in a bird with 1 3/8.
I know.
That hunt was literally like from when that bird gobbled to died was probably 5 minutes. He probably gobbled 10 minutes max. He probably gobbled 60 times, and he just
Jesus.
It was like I can't explain it. I wish everybody could have at least just witnessed what happened. I mean, he ran. That ravine he ran down was like a mountain goat thing. Just ran right down. There's like this little cut in the side of the hill. He ran it, hit the creek, and the bank we were on right to my left. I mean, when he popped up, like I looked him right in the soul. I mean, he was just like, there he is. And I'm like, wow, this is really close. Luke, I mean, it was so close. He blew him back like off the bank to the creek. Like it. Impressive.
Stop the flop on that one.
I mean, it was fat. I mean, it was like, he got pillowcase. There were feathers everywhere. I mean, the bird it took it out pretty.
Ain't breeding them no more.
As it friggin' 4 steps.
Well, hey, man, thanks for hopping on and catching up with me, and appreciate you donating to our little competition here in the National Wildlife Turkey Federation. Good luck the rest of the season. Hopefully you get a couple of your buddies some more birds and your dad, and
Hoping 2 more by the end, but we'll see.
let me know how you make out.
Guys.
Good luck, man.
Yep. Thanks.
See ya.
Bye.
All right. This week on Breedinum Radio, we are catching up with Al Fagan. He's got both his birds down. It shows, I'm looking at our chart here. It shows you got yours on 5-4 and 5-17.
Yep.
You're hunting Wyoming County, right?
Oh yeah. Yep. That's home.
Nice. So let's start right in with a bird on 5-4. I guess real quick before that, how long you been turkey hunting for, do you think?
Ooh, that's a good question. Since I was legal to do so, which I think it was 14, around that age sometime. So that's been, I don't know, what is that, 17 years or something like that.
Very nice. So how do you feel this year is added up to the other years as far as action?
Boy, I'll tell you what, it sure seems like this year was tougher. I don't know. The birds were a little funky this year. I mean, obviously I'm tagged out, which is awesome, but
Right.
a lot of years it sure seemed like you could just work them no matter where you went. And this year it was kind of a struggle. Birds just don't want to gobble, and I'm still out there trying to find some for my friend and old man, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely been difficult, and I've been about the same as you, probably almost 18 years now.
Yeah.
And I just don't remember a year that I've worked so few birds and heard so few birds on roost. I mean, normally at least roost gobbling is awesome, and this year it's just been a lack thereof.
Yeah, exactly. And trying to roost them the night before, that just isn't,
Yeah.
well, it worked
No,
out.
I've been out more this year to roost than I have any other year. And I have not, and part of that reason is because I haven't been hearing them in the morning. So I've been like, well, if I can put one to bed, then I at least know where it is. And I just, I haven't even been doing that. I have no idea.
Yeah.
So we finally got into a group here in the last week, me and my buddy. Basically a bunch of farmland that he's got. And over the years, we've kind of, towards the end of season, you start seeing them showing up in some of these fields. And I kind of just figured they're there all season, but nobody was hunting them.
Okay.
So we were hitting a lot of those farms throughout the season and nothing was happening. Like we'd hear hens. The first weekend we had some gobbling and then that was it. But I hunted with him last Friday before I went up north, and out of nowhere, driving down the road, we left the woods at like 7 o'clock, and I'm like, I'm just going to go for a drive, see if anything's out in any of the fields. And I come pulling down the road and checking the one field, and sure as shit, there was 4 strutters standing right by the telephone pole we normally sit at.
Yep, go figure.
Bitch, there they are. So I tried to reap them because it's a pretty good hill in the field, and they were on the front side of it. And I was thinking if I got around the back side of it and ran down the field and popped over, might be able to reap one. And I figured, what the hell at this point? Either you're going to spook them or, they're going to be gone by the time I get there. And turned out they were gone by the time I got there. And thinking about it was the 2 hens that were out there that the 4 gobblers were strutting around. They were heading for the woods pretty quick when I was driving down the road. Yeah, I think that was just their morning routine as they were out there strutting around everything, because we went and hunted them Memorial Day.
Okay.
And I mean, we couldn't have been any closer without shooting, but I always see these people running these decoy sets out in fields with, flocks of birds.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, I got to try it. I've always tried it. It's never worked. I'm like, this is a perfect scenario. I'm like, I'm going for it. So we got in there nice and early, set decoys up, both got on the edge of the woods, and all these hens started dropping down out of the roost right into the field. And I'm like, oh, we are golden. And then it was super windy, so you couldn't really hear that well. So I was kind of chalking up the no roost gobbling to, the wind was whipping so hard. If they were over 100, 150, you weren't hearing them anyways. So I threw out some soft calls as the hens started hitting the field. And lo and behold, probably 15 minutes after you figured they'd come down, they started gobbling down the ridge from us. And and I knew they were coming, so I shut up. I didn't call anymore. And I figured I'd just let them know that I was there, let them hit the field and see the decoys, and hopefully the rest would be easy from there. And the only thing that stinks is there's like 2 openings in the woods line, and I was on the top of one, and my buddy was on the top of another one, but like he was in between the 2, and I was right on the one. So of course, where they start coming out, like right on top of me. So
Yep.
I started videotaping the field. I had my camcorder set up, and I looked at the battery life, and it said 2 minutes left. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to videotape any of this. So I just closed the camera and started using it as a tripod
Yep.
for my gun, because they were coming to my left and I had nothing to hold my gun up. So I quick swung the tripod over there and leaned my gun on it. And doesn't the one bird come into like 15 yards? And I can see his beet red head, and I can hear his wings hitting the ground, drumming.
Yep.
And he was like his head was like right on the side of a tree, and it was still pretty dark, but I knew like I had the bead on it, and I was close to pulling the trigger, but I didn't like that tree on the side of his head.
Yeah.
Because my buddy was to the right of that. And I was afraid that shot would scatter when it hit the tree.
Yeah.
So I was like, if he goes left, I got an opening. I'm taking him. I'm like, if he goes right, he should walk right out in front of my buddy, and my buddy should have him.
Yeah, either way.
And sure as shit, they went right. And I didn't know when I set my buddy up, but he was in the like, he was another step into the hedgerow than I was. And with the foliage coming out now, he couldn't even see down the field. So until it got like 20 yards out in the field, he wasn't even seeing it. Because the first hens that came out, I was like trying to whisper, but it was so loud with the wind. I was like, get your gun up, because I didn't know if it was gobblers or not. And he was just sitting there like kicked back with a gun in his lap. And I'm like, these birds are already in the field, and he's not. And then when I went over there to talk to him a while after, I was like, man, you can't even see the corner. And he was like, no, he's like, I got to wait till they get out a ways. And I'm like, God, because the jakes, when they went right, they popped out of the opening that I thought they would.
Yep.
And they were like 25 yards in front of him. And he never saw them until they were about 45, 50 yards.
Ah, shit.
Yeah. So they came out, they looked at the decoy. They went down to the bottom of the field where a bunch of the hens were. And then the gobbler, you could hear him coming. He took over the goblin. It was the jakes at first. You could tell they were crappy gobbles.
Yeah.
And then he took over the goblin. And then the jakes popped out. And then I think he was standing on the edge of the woods looking at the decoys, and he didn't like it. And I think he went down to the bottom corner and came out and went straight across. There's like a grassy area, like a little marsh. He went straight across that to the hens that were in the other field. And he sat down there. I got these jakes all wound up and a couple of the hens all wound up, because I was like, well, everything's starting to walk away. I'm just going to give it to it and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
And the jakes gave us a hell of a show. But I think the jakes have also had their asses kicked enough times by now that they know not to run up to a hen with a strutting gobbler. So they hung back. They let the hen come in. I mean, the hen came in, walked right around the decoys, and we needed like 10 yards out of the jakes for my buddy to shoot.
Yep.
It just did not happen, but they gave us a hell of a show. And when I got them wound up, I could see the big boy down in the other field strutting, and he gobbled a couple times for us. And then everything exited the field, and it was interesting to watch because all the hens kind of scattered. I think they got their nests now.
Yep.
Because there was like hens walking different directions in every field, or like all the fields around us.
They were just going any which way.
Yeah, like all of a sudden they just all dispersed, and they all just kind of took their own path and left.
That's weird.
And there was like 2 hens that went in the woods with the gobblers. So I don't know if that's the 2 hens that I saw them with on Friday that they're still with. Maybe they're still breeding.
Yeah.
So we decided to not pressure them anymore now that we saw what they did one time up close and personal.
Yep.
So we let them all leave, and we went out. It was funnier than hell. I crawled out with my Reaper decoy.
Yeah.
Because after they left the field, we were like, we got to get them freaking decoys out of here. They probably would have came right out like they normally do if the decoys weren't here.
Yeah.
So I crawled out with a Reaper decoy, and grabbed the strutter and the hen and brought them back. And not 2 minutes later, a hen hit the corner of the field down below us and walked right up.
Oh, no kidding.
I was like, see, if I'd have walked out there, that bird probably would have been long gone.
Oh yeah, game over at that point. Yeah.
So it was funny to try it. So, but we went down and picked out a couple other trees. Found one up a little bit or down a little bit from where he was, and then down in the bottom corner, so we can have the whole thing covered next time. And we're gonna try again the next few mornings, I think, right before work. So. Yeah,
I mean it's.
I mean there was like 10 birds in there, so I think the majority were hens, but
still, there's got to be 1 or 2 gobblers in there somewhere.
Oh yeah. So there was 2 jakes and 1 gobbler, but when I drove by the other day, there was 2 and 2.
Hey.
So I know they're there. So I figured instead of pressure them and try to light them up again, I'm like, let's just get out of here.
Yeah.
And we'll pressure them more next weekend if we have to. But.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you just got to keep pushing right to the very end. That's
right.
I mean, I've killed plenty of them the last 3 days of season, you know?
See, that's normally what I hunt with him because he's so busy with farming that he never gets a break till the end of season.
Yeah.
So we normally don't, like, we'll do a couple mornings during the week, but we normally don't even hunt his property. So there's a ton of area not getting hunted. And then I think by the end of the season, they've all had it from the neighbors and they just move into his place. And
yeah.
Then it's game on. But I think that transformation started happening last weekend. So.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Which is when we normally would have started. So.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we're on the right track to get something here in the end. And I've been hunting with him probably the last 2 years, the last weekend or two, trying to get him a bird. And we've had a ton of action, and we just haven't been able to make it happen. He missed one. He missed one 2 years ago now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we got in there into one of his fields first thing in the morning. We kicked like 6 birds out of one tree.
Oh.
And we didn't know they were there because we didn't roost them. And we still had a great morning. We hunted till like 9, and there was birds gobbling. You know, the one hen, I freaking was just going back and forth with her, and the gobblers were just on the other side of her, and we just couldn't get a shot. Yep. So I told them, I'm like, well, this is what they did today. So I'm like, this is what we're going to do tomorrow. And I'm like, we're not going to call at all. We're just going to go sit there and wait for them. Yeah. And sure as shit, it was like clockwork. And I was facing downhill. He was facing the field. And I seen him over the corner of my eyes coming. And I just gave a couple of clucks to bring him over the edge of the hill because it was kind of crested. Yep. They gobbled out in the field. I gave him a couple of clucks and they came right over. And I don't know if it was too far or not. I mean, I was looking out my peripheral. Yeah. But they were right there. And I told him, I'm like, if you got a shot, shoot. And he shot. And I think he said he didn't have his head down on his gun. Oh. So he was like, that's the only thing I can figure is I never pulled my head down. Yeah. Because I think it was like 35, 40 yards, which should have been fine.
Oh, yeah, exactly. But if you aren't bird right down on it, you can whiff a shot like that pretty easy.
Oh, yeah. So we're still working at it. We'll try to get him one here by the end of the season. I don't even care if I get one at this point. I just want to make sure he gets closure on his. I mean, he's been hunting for a while. He had a kid that worked at the farm that hunted. They used to go like every morning before work, and they just had like great mornings, but just never could tie it together. So he's probably on like a 5-year quest here to get a bird. So if I could just see him do that this year, that'd be fantastic.
Oh yeah, I mean that's kind of the big goal is trying to get somebody else one.
Right. So at this point in my season, if he pulls the trigger, I'll be a happy camper.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep, that's definitely the way to go for it.
Enough about my weekend. How'd your first couple of kills go?
Well, I guess the first 3 days of season were rough. I mean, I didn't hear a gobble until only heard one gobble, and it was like 10:30 on. Was it the first Sunday, so the 3rd, and never made anything happen. Actually both my folks, my mom actually wanted to go out and see what it was like this year, not hunt, but just see what it was like. You know, had birds picked out, saw 3 longbeards in a field a couple days before season. The night before, saw 3 jakes in the same field, threw the blind up. Never heard them, never seen them, nothing. So, on to the next couple days with with some buddies, and then with my girlfriend, and nothing. We just heard one gobble. That was it. But it'd be that Sunday night on the 3rd. Same thing. Getting kind of late, and was like, you know what? I'm going to go for a drive, spot some fields, see if I can see anything. Never saw nothing. So this one spot that I've hunted a lot, I ended up going there at last light and making a few hoots, trying to get something to gobble. Nothing. I'm like, what the hell? And there's always birds there. I scouted them there before season. Nothing.
Yep.
So I'm just sitting in the middle of this hayfield, screwing around on my phone on Onyx, trying to figure out what to do. And I hear a couple of geese flying down through the valley. And sure as shit, he let off just one time when those geese flew through. I was like, okay, I know where you're at now.
Yeah, there you are.
And they always like to roost in the same spot. It's kind of like a finger of woods just below a field that's on a ridge. And there's kind of a gully on the backside of it. And they always seem to like to roost right on the edge of that gully. So anyways, the next morning I get up in there good and early, throw the decoys out in this field, and kind of with my back to this gully. And I don't know, I'm just sitting there, and it was kind of dark out that morning, cloudy and shit. And he lit off once, and my hearing is not as good as other folks. I mean, sometimes direction's a little funky, and he was so close that I couldn't tell if he was behind me or off to the side where I was hoping he was.
Yeah.
Let off a few soft yelps, and he never gobbled again. And then I start hearing spitting and drumming. I'm like, oh, I hope he's not behind me. If he's behind me, I'm screwed, you know. And, then all of a sudden it's still fairly dark out, and all of a sudden out in the field, cornfield, I see something dark kind of slinking through the field. I was like, man, is that a freaking coon or what is that? Then the spitting and drumming gets louder and louder, and all of a sudden just a fan pops up over the top of the rise. And I mean, there's really not much to that one. He just came charging right into the decoys about 25 yards, and it was game over before 6 o'clock, I think it was. So
that's the way you love it to happen right there.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's not some epic story or something like that.
Right.
It worked out easy. And
so was there hens around, do you know, or was he by himself?
there was hens around. I'd seen him there before season a lot, but that morning he was all by his lonesome. So
That's perfect.
yeah, it worked out absolutely perfect. I mean,
What was the decoy spread you were running?
I use the avians. I've just got a Jake and a hen, and I actually like to lay the hen down on the ground, not use a stake, and then just put the Jake right over top of her. And I've killed a lot of them that way. They just seem to get.
Is the Jake like quarter strut or full strut or?
No, I don't think it's any of those. It's
Just a regular Jake.
Yeah, just the regular avian Jake. But I don't know. It seems to work. It seems like if they're going to commit, they're going to commit to that. So I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard of a lot of people this year using Jakes over hens.
Yeah.
And I've always ran the decoy we were using the other day. I'm not sure what the brand of it was, but it was a full fan with it was a short beard, but it was a full fan.
Yeah.
So he was full strut. And then the other one that we've used is B Mobile, and he's freaking huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And after not having success and then hearing other people's stories, which has been fun, it's just kind of picking up on the little things like that. Like, you're using just probably the feeder Jake,
Yeah.
And then, I've talked to guys that say they had like a full strut Jake that wasn't working well. They switched to a quarter strut Jake, and all of a sudden it just gets charged,
Oh, no kidding.
And it's over like the down hen, like you said, put it right down on the ground.
Yeah.
So that's what I tried the other day when we set our decoys up. I tried putting the hen right down on the ground,
Mm-hmm.
but the Jake didn't really stand up much over the top of her. So I don't know if it just didn't do it or what.
Huh.
But I think I'm going to get some of those decoys, the avian decoys next year.
I'll tell you what, I freaking love them. I got a picture, but I couldn't get that first bird to poke his head out from around the decoys, and finally he did just a little bit, and now I got stuffed right in the neck portion. So
Nice.
they didn't pop it, but
Yeah.
keeping them there for a little bit of jewelry or something like that.
Yeah, so I think that would be the ticket, is maybe a quarter Jake and a hen from that series there, and
Yeah.
see if I can have some more luck with that next year. But
The only thing though, like in fields, seems like that works really well. I've tried it in the woods. In fact, a few days after that one, I was out in the woods with my bow, kind of running a gun, and struck one up and did the same setup, just kind of in the woods, and saw this joker coming down the line, and he got to about 35 yards and just poked his head up, saw those decoys, and just turned around and booked it out of there. He didn't like it. I don't know.
so I don't know if you listened to any of our stuff, but we were talking about that in one of our Turkey Talk podcasts.
Oh, I didn't hear that one.
Yeah, they said pretty much everybody's consensus when we were going around the table was not to use decoys in the woods.
Yeah.
Everybody said, you get in the woods and set up decoys, and it hardly ever works. You get out in the field and set them up, and it seems to work. For everybody else, it seems to work all the time. I can't seem to get it to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
At some point.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So was that with a gun or a bow, your first one there?
That was with a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of them this year I shot with a gun. I like to get out with a bow, but
Yeah.
sometimes I would have hunted with a bow a lot more, but the second bird I shot, I ended up getting into him on public land, and I was like, I don't want to screw around. I mean, I've been trying to get a bird on this piece of public for forever. I mean, long time. And so that one, actually way back it was like February. The field's kind of up above the public land. I ended up spotting a whole flock of them out there back in February, and kind of made note of it, come before season, tried to go down there and listen in the mornings, and actually never heard a gobble down there before season. One night I heard a hen kind of yelping a little bit, and I was like, all right, that's a good starting point. So I think it was on the 8th of May. Yeah, it was the 8th of May on a Friday, I think that was. Yeah. I go down there in the morning, I said, might as well try it. And two of them started lighting off. First thing in the morning, I was like, oh, okay, this is sweet. So slip in nice and close, and they're roosted over a gully. And I made some soft calls, while they're still on the roost. And then, I don't know, some other hens started piping up, and next thing I know, the birds hit the ground, but they're on the other side of this gully from me. So I tried to get way up and around the top side of this gully, because these gullies are 40 foot deep. You can't go across them.
Yeah.
Tried to get on the same kind of ridge they were on, and didn't work out. So weekend came, hunted with family and friends and all that stuff. So that Sunday night, I go back down to try and roost them, and they gobbled one time, and heard them fly up. I was like, all right, they're in the same spot. Perfect, So call my buddy up, ask him what he's doing in the morning, tell him, hey, I got a couple roosties. He said, all right, yeah, I can go for that. So we slip in the next morning, get real tight, and tighter than I was the morning before, or the Friday before. And these things they're just going nuts, both the gobblers. And we're just hammering on them. They're hammering back. All of a sudden some hens pipe up, and I see one of the gobblers fly down, and there's just enough of a lip that he was down over the lip from me. And the other one just flew down with him, and they're just going nuts. They couldn't have been 50 yards, and we just couldn't see them. And all of a sudden we both seen a bird kind of in our decoys, but it was kind of tucked behind some stuff. And we're like, I don't know. Because there was hens going too. And we're like, I don't know. Knew there was a shot, and probably a good thing, because after we talked about it, we're like, man, we're pretty sure that was a hen. Because all of a sudden the gobblers, next thing we know, they're gobbling on the other side of the gully from us again. They must have hopped that gully, and so did the hens, and they just started going away from us. So we tried to make a move on them, nothing. So the next morning we decide, well, let's try them again. So we get back in there, and get a little better setup than what we'd had the morning before. And they fly down, and we didn't see them fly down this morning. They're going nuts, and then all of a sudden they start heading way down the ridge, like going away from us again, but on the same ridge that we're on. And he had to get to work, but I managed to save a little time, so I chased him all the way down to the bottom and never heard him again. After 9 o'clock, they were done. I don't know where they went. So at this point, it's kind of getting a little personal with me. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to keep after these guys as much as I can.
Yeah.
So Wednesday, the 13th, they're roosted in the same exact spot. I'm like, this is perfect. So I think it had rained the night before, so everything was nice and quiet. I slip in, and I'm 75 yards from one of them. Can't see him, but I can hear him, and he's freaking close. So I don't make a single peep. And what do? They fly down on the other side of the gully again. So I work all the way back up to the top side of the gully, get around the other side of it to where I'm on the same ridge as them, and I sit down for maybe 15 minutes, kind of let things calm down, and they gobble, not 100 yards from me. There's enough brush in between us, so they never saw me come in or nothing. So I start scratching leaves or gobbling at that, a few purrs and everything, gobbling, and they won't come. They just stood in one spot. I'm like, what? Yeah. And at that point, I had to get to work, so I scooted out of there. It was probably like 7:30, and again, like I said, getting personal. So the next day, go back in, decide to get on that north side of the gully where they've been going to, and that ridge was just tore up with scratchings. It looked like somebody was just rolling around in there. I was like, all right, this is where they want to be, So get sitting right in all that scratching, sit there for, it was probably 7 o'clock. I didn't make a single call, and they didn't gobble at all either. I'm like, what the heck? So
they probably got spooked out of there that night or something.
Yeah. So I don't know what it was. I start calling, and all of a sudden, way down below, a couple jakes start going off. I'm like, well, what the hell? I got time. I might as well play with them. So I worked them for probably 2 hours, I would guess, and never got a look at them. I don't know. But ended up getting out of there. So finally, it was that Friday, I went back to the north side of the gully, just hoping that the birds didn't get blown out by somebody else. It's public land, so who knows?
Right.
And they're sure as shit, they're back in their bedroom. I'm like, all right, I'm good. So since they've been going away from my calls, I was like, what? I'm kind of going to deer hunt these jokers. Just sit here quiet and see what they do. And sure enough, they fly down on the south side of the gully where I've been chasing them. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? So again, go all the way back to the top of the gully, get down on the same ridge that they're on, and they're heading way down the ridge. So what do? I chase them way down the ridge. And I get set up. There's a blowdown. I get set up, and they're just, I sit for probably 20 minutes, and I hear them light off. They're coming down to the very bottom. I'm like, all right, this is good. So I start calling. I'm looking, and there's ticks crawling all over me. I'm like,
oh God.
Yeah.
That's my worst nightmare.
Oh, they're freaking terrible. And it was hot that morning. I was sweating my ass off. So I'm stripping before they get to me or whatever, and start calling. And they just stay up probably like 150 yards up above me on this ridge, and they wouldn't budge, wouldn't come down. And there was a lot of brush in between us, but I thought maybe it'll work. No. So finally, after an hour and a half of that, I'm like, all right, I'm going up to them. So I crawl up through all this brush, again, it's hotter than hell, and get up to where they were in the woods, kind of finally open up. And I look way down below me, kind of in this grassy area. What do I see? Both the birds strutting back down kind of where I was. Like, I should have just been patient and waited it out. Damn, this. So I can still see them. So I just sit down next to a tree, make a few calls, and they just poke their heads up, looking around, and all of a sudden they just walk off. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? What the hell? So I don't know. It was frustrating, but whatever. So
Yeah.
I was like, so then it was Saturday, and my old lady wanted to hunt, so we try a different spot, and we didn't get into anything that day, but turns out she got pretty tired from waking up so early, so that afforded me a chance to get back out on Sunday.
Yeah.
Finally, Sunday shows up. It's a good day, and I decided. My buddy that had been in there before with me, he's like, why don't you try just right first thing getting down below them? They seem to always want to go down.
I was wondering that same thing when I was listening to your story. I was like, you almost need like 2 or 3 guys.
Yeah.
Throw one below, one in the north, and one in the south, and
Yep.
just wait for them.
Yeah, exactly. So that morning I get in super early and walk all the way down to this very bottom where I'd seen them strutting that Friday before. Get set up, nice setup. I mean, I'm tucked right in, and they start. It was super foggy, and they start lighting off up where they'd been roosted the whole time. Right up in their bedroom. I'm like, all right, this is perfect, And so I'm just listening to them, not making any calls because again, they've been going away. So I was like, just be quiet. And they hit the ground, and they're on the south ridge, which is right up above me. I'm like, this is perfect, all of a sudden I hear some owls hooting, and they're gobbling at them. Birds are just going nuts that morning. So, and I thought I had heard some jakes gobbling with them too, but I wasn't sure. And all of a sudden the birds start going up away from me, and I'm purring at them, and they're just going away from me. I'm like, God damn. Grab all my shit. And I start hauling ass up this ridge, and they must have heard me walking in the leaves, and they lit off like 150 yards up above me. But there's, again, just enough of a crest they couldn't see me. So I, plop my ass right down and give them like 5 minutes. They gobble again on their own, still right in front of me. I'm like, all right. So a few soft purrs, they hammer right back. And I scratch some leaves. They gobble at that right back, and they're right dead ahead in front of me, and I'm facing right uphill. And then all of a sudden, off to my right, I start seeing something. I look over, and it's 2 birds, and I was like, man, I better, before I do something stupid, I want to make sure it's not those jakes. And I just see a couple of ropes just swinging. It's like, all right, finally, But you know how it is when you're a right-handed shooter.
Oh, yeah, to go left.
To go one thing, to turn right is another.
Yeah.
Like, damn. And they're right on the edge of this gully that they've been hopping back and forth this whole time. So finally, I just slowly get swung around and had to wait a while for them to separate. And they weren't strutting or anything. They were actually just scratching leaves, kind of pecking away. I don't know. But finally, the one separated, and I shot, and like I said, he was right on the edge of that gully. And the last thing I shoot, and he flops down in this 40-foot gully. What am I gonna do?
Yeah.
But got it right up to him, and I can honestly say, I've never chased the same birds for 7 days. But 2, I've never hooted and hollered after I shot a bird. That morning was different.
Yeah, absolutely.
That morning was way different. I was pretty jacked up. So.
I've had a couple mornings now that I thought I was going to be hooting and hollering, but I haven't quite got there yet.
Yeah. And the thing is, we kind of figured that these birds were probably older, not just a 2-year-old or something like that. And
yeah.
Sure enough, they weren't. So I ended up getting some pictures and going back up to my truck on the road and sitting there in the back of the truck, just kind of putting stuff away. And car drives by. I hear it whip around, pull up. This guy I know, he's like, "What are you doing hunting in my spot?" So we start shooting the shit. All of a sudden, his dad pulls up in a truck. He says, "What are you doing shooting my birds?" I'm like, "Man, these guys are just busting my balls," which they're good dudes. So his dad drives off.
Did they tell you about the spot?
No.
Oh, it's fair game then.
It's a spot that they've always hunted. It's a big piece of public. So,
Yeah.
So his dad drives off, and me and the young guy that's my age, we're just shooting the shit. And all of a sudden, this little Subaru goes zooming by, and all of a sudden it whips around. Guy comes pulling up. Finally got one. Nice. Yeah. And start talking. He's like, "Man, I parked right up here from your truck this morning. Where'd you get him?" I kind of, not gonna lie, I pointed the other direction. He's like, "Man, I had 2 of them going this morning right down below me here. They were just going nuts." He says, then some guy comes in from up above me and starts owl hooting, and they start gobbling with that. I heard it. It was a real owl. It wasn't some other dude.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he's like, "Man, they're coming up. They're coming up my way." And then all of a sudden they turned right around. They started heading back down, and all of a sudden, boom! Some guy starts hooting and hollering. I'm like, "Oh, no kidding." All right. So,
That's awesome.
That place gets hammered pretty hard with guys. So.
I was going to ask you, did it seem like there was much hunting pressure on those birds or no?
During the week, no. Not so much. But, there was plenty of cars in there during the week, but on these particular birds, no. And then all of a sudden that week came, and it was –
That's interesting because you feel like even – was it a long ways from the car or no?
Not entirely. I'd say, I don't know, probably – if it's a half mile, it's a long ways.
So you're probably – you could probably hear them right from the road, right?
That's the thing. I don't think you could.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think there's just enough of a lip that I don't know if you could hear them.
Yeah.
I never tried actually listening from the road. I was always trying to get down where they were.
You got to figure that if you could hear them from the road,
oh, yeah.
People would be all over that.
Yeah, absolutely. But,
and you wouldn't think that they'd stand for the pressure either, you were on them for a week or so, and they stuck right in, except for that one night one morning you were talking about, they stuck right in the same spot the whole time.
Yeah, exactly, which was kind of weird, but I like that spot. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy that you can have a couple of birds going that hard on state land and not have anybody in there really screwing it up.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of going into it when I first found them. I was like, all right, I want to take this kind of easy because figuring these things are getting hammered on, I don't want to be that guy out there with a box call just wah, wah.
Yeah.
So,
is that all woods you're dealing with there? Is there a little field there too?
No, it's all woods.
All woods.
Yeah. Yep. So
what you do anything for ticks on your clothes or no?
I do use that permethrin stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sprayed all my shit down before a season with that.
Mm-hmm.
I hung it up in the basement and just freaking drenched it in that stuff. And I got First Light stuff.
Yep.
And the base layer, the t-shirt and long sleeve.
Yep.
It starts to get like a little must to it, but it's not like wearing a cotton shirt where you like it stinks.
Yeah. Yep.
Like I'm a big dude. I hike a lot. I sweat a lot. That stuff does not change scent at all. It's
really
crazy. So like I never even washed. I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, I haven't even washed any of my stuff this year. Like normally, like if I was wearing Under Armour stuff or whatever.
Oh, it reeks by day 3.
Oh, yeah, I'd be coming home every weekend and washing all my clothes.
Yeah.
But I sprayed down all that First Light stuff before the season, and I haven't washed it at all.
Yep.
And I haven't had one tick on me.
No kidding. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, the only reason I had ticks on me that one day is because, well, it was warm, and I had sprayed down my stuff that I usually wear in early season that's a little warmer, and that switch stuff, and they were on me, but I don't know.
Yeah, I use the Sawyer.
Yeah. Yep.
And
they say you can wash your stuff and it stays on there still. So
I just figured it'd be better off if I didn't wash it.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, I haven't had any ticks on me yet, and the stuff doesn't smell too bad, so I'm not going to wash it yet.
Yeah, exactly. And
last year, me and my buddy, we were hunting together, and he's a skinny dude, but we hunted together for a weekend up north, and we went on this one day we had to have walked like 8 miles, and it was hot out, and we were like all the way down the hill, other hill, back all the way to the top of the hill we started on. Then we go down to some state land that was private. Then we go down to some state land, and I'm like, I've always wanted to see what's in the back corner of this, because there's like a field tucked away, way, way, way in the back corner.
Yeah.
And you got to go like down, 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 and then hit the bottom, then come all the way back up to go up the other side. So it's vice versa on the way back. And, we're sun up till noon. And we get back in the truck, and he's like, I think he was trying to talk on the phone with the window up. And I'm like, no way, dude. Like, I'm freaking rolling the windows down. I'm like, you need to get out of that shit and take a shower as soon as possible.
Oh, yeah.
And you got me that's a bigger dude, wearing that First Light merino stuff, and it's like, it doesn't really smell that bad.
No, that merino stuff is awesome.
That's impressive.
Yeah, when we go out west chasing elk, that's the way to go, because undoubtedly you're going to stink, and
oh yeah,
seems to help a lot.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. One other thing I think I want to catch you on here. I don't know if you've ever heard our debate between leathers or rubber boots.
Mm-hmm.
I think, you'd be a good one to chime in on that.
All right. I'm a leather guy.
Yeah?
I am, yep. Yeah, I wear the hikers. I got a pair of Crispies that I wore the shit out of them. But unless I know the spot I'm going is wet.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I actually caved here in the last week when temps got up into the 70s and 80s. I couldn't do the rubber boots anymore.
Oh, yeah.
I finally said, screw it. If ticks are going to get in my pants, they're going to get in my pants. I don't care. It's too hot to wear the rubber boots.
Yeah, exactly.
And part of my problem is the only rubber boots I have are the lacrosse Alpha Burleys that are 800.
Ooh.
And normally it doesn't bother me, but on a couple of days we've been hiking.
Yep.
Oh, man, by the time I'm done, I'm like, get these freaking things off.
Tip them over and pour the sweat out of them.
Yeah, not quite that bad. This weekend when I went up north, I took the hikers, and that's all I wore the whole time. And
yeah.
I just got a set of Danners. They're nothing special, but.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like I can be quieter in the hikers too, when you're trying to slip in. Just keep from breaking sticks and shit like that.
Have you ever been up north in the Adirondacks hunting?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I actually went to college up at Paul Smith, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time up there.
So what always amazes me up there is, like, when I'm here at home hiking through the woods, I feel like I can be like dead silent.
Mm-hmm.
You go up there and it's like a 4-inch layer of just old leaves and just sticks.
Oh, yeah. There's so much. Yeah. Everything is so snappy up there.
Oh my God. I'm like, I can't even take a step without just sounding like I heard a deer coming through the woods.
Yeah.
And it drives me nuts, because normally I'm like so adamant about where my feet are going and like,
oh yeah,
sneaking around and being quiet. And I go up there and it's like the entire ground is like 4 inches of just decayed shit that is just cracking and snapping constantly.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how like I've never shot a deer up there, but these guys that track them up in the Adirondacks, and like obviously they want snow, but there's guys that are doing it way before there's snow, and I'm like, how are you being quiet enough to get even close for a rifle shot? I don't know. One
of these years, I really want to get up into the mountains when there's some snow and go on a track, because my in-laws are like right on the edge of the mountains.
Okay.
And it's pretty much the same kind of territory.
Yeah.
It's just not considered the Adirondack Park. They're like 10 minutes from it, 15
minutes.
Oh,
yeah.
Just outside like the line. Yeah, it's the same ground, big tracts of state land, And I've been deer hunting there several times where I'll find a big track. And, for some reason, I'm just like, I don't, I just veer off it. And I'm like, okay, so there's good sign here. And then like, I'll go back and put a tree stand up. And I'm like, I got to quit hunting this like home. And I got to get out there and get on a track and go. Yeah. Yeah. Me and a buddy, we keep talking about it because he came up when I was in college and hunted with me a little bit. And we found this one area that we really liked. And we're like, man, we ought to just take the
take the tent and stove and just get back in there for a long weekend or something and just stay back there and try it.
Yeah.
But then deer season rolls around and it seems like we're so busy trying to chase deer here that we never do. So
that's my problem. Like Billy, he goes all over the place. He goes to PA, he goes Letchworth, the nature conservancies, like he's all over the place. And for me, it's like I get so set in my ways, and it's going to deer camp every weekend that I just like my whole week is rush around, get done as early as I can on Friday, and I'm at camp for the weekend.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
for me, it's like, for me to go hunt somewhere else, I'm missing out on that.
Yeah.
But then I go do some of this other stuff and I enjoy it. So it's like sometimes it's just breaking out of your realm.
Yeah. Yeah. We've kind of started doing that here in the past 3-4 years. It's just trying different state land, and it's cool to kind of explore a new area and try to figure it out. But then you still always end up back at the old standby.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I'm over here by Canisius Lake, and there's a lot of state land over.
Oh yeah.
From here over to Canandaigua Lake.
Oh yeah.
There's a ton of state land, and some of it is absolutely brutal to get in and out of, and it is great hunting. So.
Yeah, some of that steep stuff.
Yeah. So I haven't had to yet, but I'm planning on having to quarter a deer out of there one of these days.
I keep saying the same thing. I keep the pack in the truck when I go some spots, but to use it on. So
the only deer I've shot in the state land down there was a doe. It was with my bow. I just walked in with a stand on my back, threw a stand up, had deer moving, whacked a doe, and of course she freaking ran down the hill.
Like they always do, yeah.
Oh my God. But she was close to a logging road. So I ended up calling my dad, and he came over, and it took us probably just as long to drag it out as it would have for us to like slap it up in a tree and quarter it out.
Oh yeah.
And just carry it out of there.
Yeah.
It was kind of a warm evening, and it was probably like a mile and a half drag.
Ooh.
And even though most of it was on trail, most of it was up, or not most of it, all of it was uphill.
Yeah.
So
it
was back and forth taking turns, and it was just like by the time we got to the truck, I was shot. I was like, I don't know if that's for a doe again.
Yeah, exactly. There's some spots you really got to think about it.
Yeah. But hey, man, it was good catching up with you. Nice meeting you.
Yeah, you too.
Sorry about last week and jumping around trying to get you on, but
no worries.
Glad I got a chance to catch up with you, and hopefully you and the girlfriend get out and get her one here this weekend.
Yeah, that's the plan. We'll see what happens, but
yeah, good luck, and let me know how you do.
Yeah, you do the same.
Have a good one.
All right, see ya.
See ya.